So, that might not work later, but we'll find out. So, Rising Above Anxiety is one of the support groups that I run here. I haven't been able to do it in person because of the COVID pandemic. So we have started a Facebook page, and I have been doing little sessions each week. So I've kind of put that all together for you guys here to go through the whole series. So I want to start off with explaining what anxiety is. So anxiety is a natural response in our body to stressful and dangerous and unfamiliar situations. There are many different symptoms of anxiety, but it is overall a feeling of fear, apprehension, or uneasiness about what is to come. These things can be things such as first day of school, job interview, giving a speech, any kind of situation that you see as stressful. If your feelings of anxiety are extreme and interfere with your daily life, it is important to see your doctor just to rule out any kind of anxiety disorder. Anxiety disorders are different from the normal anxiety that a lot of people feel from time to time. Anxiety disorders involve feelings of overwhelming and excessive fear, anxiety that occur regularly for a significant amount of time. So a lot of people have feelings of anxiety at some point in their lives. Does anyone want to share any experience with anxiety that you have had? It went all wonky on me. There we go. All right. So here we're going to learn about challenging our anxiety. So to better start understanding how to manage your anxiety, we need to start at the beginning by looking at our negative thoughts. Negative thoughts can be things such as, I'm a bad parent, I'm such a failure, I'll never get better, I'm a disappointment, the list goes on. When we focus on the negative, these thoughts can build up, making a situation overwhelming and causing us even greater anxiety. So challenging your self-talk may seem time-consuming. It does take a lot of time, it takes a lot of practice, takes a lot of energy. But when you take the time to do this, you can gain tremendous insight into yourself and maybe even recognize patterns in your thinking. The main purpose of challenging your negative thoughts is to prove that they are not true. For example, with the gaining insight into yourself and recognizing patterns. I've struggled with panic disorder for many years. And when I started really dealing with it and I was examining situations and reflecting, I found that I would panic because I felt trapped, but not in the sense that a lot of people would understand. It's a anxiety related trapped. So, you're in a car and you get halfway and then it's like, oh my gosh, that's when you feel trapped because you either have to go the rest of the distance or turn around and go the same distance back home. Like going into a grocery store and all of a sudden you're trapped because you're in there. So you can either run away or go continue with the grocery shopping. So it's not your typical sense of being trapped, but that's what mine pretty much all came down to. So an example of this that we're going to work with is, have you ever sent a text message to someone and they didn't respond right away and your negative thoughts took over? So for some reason, my PowerPoint's backwards. So step 1 is recognize and identify your negative thinking. So there's our example. So now you may start questioning if you should have worded the message differently. Maybe the person is mad at you. Maybe they won't speak to you again. Maybe. So now step 2, challenge your negative thoughts by looking at the evidence. So using the same example in the last slide of texting somebody and they didn't text you back right away, think about what you're saying to yourself. Is your self-talk true or is it exaggerated? What are the odds that your anxious or negative thinking is actually true? So here are just some of the questions you can ask yourself to stop the negative thinking. Am I jumping to conclusions? Am I blaming myself for something that is not my fault? Is this fact or is this just my opinion? What evidence is there to support my thinking? What evidence is there to dispute my thinking? So, step 3 is changing our negative thoughts to more positive thoughts. So now that you've questioned that negative thought, come up with a fair, unbiased thought to put in its place. So something more neutral. You know, it's a lot to expect of someone to go right from negative thinking to positive thinking. So our first step is we want to get more positive. So using our previous example, have you ever sent a text message to someone and they didn't respond right away and your negative thoughts took over? Instead of assuming the worst, you could look at it this way. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they need time to think about their response. I know sometimes I don't know what to say to someone, so it takes me, maybe 5 to 10 minutes to respond to that because I don't want to say the wrong thing or have it come across as something that's just going to upset them or make the situation worse. Maybe they even fell asleep. I know one thing that I am terrible with text messages is I will be busy and it will come through and I will read it and I will be like, okay, I'm going to respond to that later. And then I forget all about it. So, one thing, I do have some worksheets that I've done up that are just great ideas. So the monitoring my anxiety, I don't know how well you can see that, but it's just a chart of how to, so your first column is what was the time, second column is what was the situation, third is what were you feeling on a scale of 0 to 10, what was the anxious thought, the next column is how I reacted, the next column is what is a more realistic thought, and the last column is how you felt after the realistic thinking. Now this came in really handy for me to try to figure out what was happening. Now I can't expect anybody to, be in the throes of anxiety or panic and jump and write this down. So sometimes it's better to just pull it out afterwards, reflect on the situation, and try to figure out what you can when you're in a calmer space. So I have another question for everyone. Have you ever experienced anything like this situation with the text messages? Have you ever had any kind of situation that you would like to share? Okay, so now that we've looked at challenging our negative thinking, and by all means, this is not an easy process, but it's definitely worth the effort. So it's not realistic to expect to be positive all the time, but it's important to catch those negative thoughts before they can increase your anxiety. This will take practice, and be gentle with yourself while you're doing this. I really stress to people that, challenging your negative thinking can be very intense, very heavy. So, if you're doing it and one day you just need a day to just, that's okay, as long as the next day you do it again. Like, you don't want to give up on it, but everybody has times where they're overwhelmed and they just feel like they can't do it. But as long as you keep going, you know, taking a break for half a day, it's, as long as you keep going, I feel that that's reasonable. There was something else I was going to say on that and I don't remember. Oh, and again, I stress, like, when you're coming from a place where you think negatively all the time, it's just not realistic to say, think positive. It's a gradual thing. Like the first thing you want to do is come up with more positive. And then, you know, once you have that mastered, then move on to being the positive. So when you find your more positive thoughts, it may help if you write them down and keep them somewhere you will see them. So maybe stick sticky notes on your mirror or on your fridge, or write them down. Keep it in your pocket, in your purse, in your phone. I know some days I need reminding, so I have a little, it's a sticky note app on my phone, so I can put the sticky, if I'm having a really rough day, I can put the sticky on my home screen that, you know, gives me my positive thoughts and reminds me. So here are some tips that may help you in keeping your thoughts more positive. Be true to yourself. How you feel about yourself is so important. Everyone has opinions. You can listen to these opinions, but ultimately make the right decision for you. One example that I use is I could wear this loud, bright orange dress with pink flowers, and my one coworker is going to love it and think it's great. And my other coworker is going to be like, what are you wearing? And then the next day, you know, I wear my regular clothes, and the coworker that thought the dress was great is now like, no. And the coworker that didn't like my dress is now like, oh, I like this on you much better. There's always going to be opinions, always. You just need to learn that to be true to yourself, and how you feel about yourself, what you think about yourself is the most important thing. Don't compare yourself to others. This is so important. I used to do this all the time. I used to compare myself to my sisters. They were always smarter than me. They were always better at athletics than me. But we are not supposed to be like anyone else. We are all unique. We are all our own person. We are not designed to be like anybody else. Celebrate your success. Even the smallest step forward is still a step forward. Any progress you make is worthy of celebrating. Seriously, the smallest step. If you're moving forward, even if it's just a hair from the day before, that is a success, and celebrate it because you deserve it. Create a list of accomplishments. Review this list often. Show yourself what you have accomplished rather than what needs to be done. Give yourself credit for how far you've come. Do something nice for yourself. This is hard work. Like, seriously, guys, this is hard work, and you deserve a break and to do something nice for yourself. So now I'm going to ask, are there any things that you have found to help keep yourself more positive? So, some healthy ways to reduce anxiety. So anxiety and stress cause the body to tense and negatively impact our breathing. When you start feeling anxious, slow down and just breathe. So you can find many different breathing exercises for reducing anxiety online. There are also some great apps such as Mindshift, Headspace, and more. And I prefer Mindshift. I love Mindshift. I've used it with my son for years. So would anyone like to go through a simple breathing exercise using Mindshift, just to give you an idea of what it's about?
Somebody asked, I think they might have missed it. Somebody asked, what's Mindshift?
Okay, so Mindshift is an app for anxiety. It's got all different kinds of tools. So when you, I'll just do a brief, when you sign in, you create an account, and then when you sign in, it asks you how you're doing that day. And then there's all sorts of, what are you experiencing down at the bottom? And then you scroll down to tools, and I like the chill zone, which is right in the middle. And then the chill zone takes you into, and the thing that I like about this app is you can select whether you want a female voice or a male voice to do the activity. You've got a calm breathing, tense and release, mental vacation, test anxiety, social anxiety, public speaking, body scan, and mindful breathing. These are all things that the app does with you.
Yeah, lots of positive response in the chat, Christine. People saying, oh, that's kind of cool, not gonna lie. That may actually help me. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
So I can just do like a brief tutorial. So the calm breathing is only 2 minutes. Like that is what I like about this app. They are short. They are like 2 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes. So if you want to, I can just show you the 2-minute calm breathing demonstration.
Sounds like there was interest in that.
Okay.
And can I suggest, folks, that perhaps we pause the chat, so pause chatting back and forth while we do the 2 minutes, and then we can all just be really intentional about those 2 minutes, and then come back to the chat if we want to.
All right. So we'll do it with a male voice. Okay. Everybody ready? Here we go.
Calm breathing, brief version. Take a slow, smooth breath in through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. And out through your mouth for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. And again, in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. And out for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. And again, in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. And out for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. In and hold. And out. And hold. And last time. In and hold. And out. And hold. Notice the tension in your body draining away. You may choose to continue to breathe slowly and smoothly for as long as you want.
Okay, so what did everybody think about that?
We got like a OK symbol.
Awesome.
Somebody was saying that they found that really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a free app I have an Android, so free app on Play Store, Mindshift, and I love it. I've used it with my son for years for social anxiety with going to school. So we would go to school early and sit in the car and do one of these.
That's awesome. Someone said they just downloaded it. That's great.
Great.
And then someone else said like they like the thought of breathing exercises, but they've never actually liked those types of exercises.
There's always, I never, like when I was so skeptical back in the beginning of the breathing exercises. So there's like progressive muscle relaxation, which they get you to breathe evenly, but it doesn't focus on your breathing. It focuses on tensing each area of your body and slowly relaxing it. And then the mental vacation, that's a good one. You just basically take yourself on a vacation in your mind.
Then we're hearing in the chat somebody saying, so the person who was saying that the breathing type kind of wasn't for them, that they find they tense up more, but that they do really like the mental vacation. So there is kind of something for different folks and what works, right?
Yeah, and the Mindshift app has all of this. Like they have the tense and release, the mental vacation. They have one specifically for test anxiety, one specifically for social anxiety. And I'm sure like all the other ones probably have similar features too. It's just this one's my personal favorite.
Very cool.
All right, move on. So this is just what we just talked about. Some other things are calming visualization, box breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, and distraction techniques. I found coloring like, oh my gosh, I never really colored as a child, but when I had my first hospitalization years ago, they had pencil crayons and coloring pages, and that's what I did, and I just loved it. So would anybody like to share any activities that you find helpful in reducing your anxiety? I know mine is coloring, crafts, sewing, cooking, baking. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add for activities? So let's move on. This is the last one in the series. I am working on a goal setting one to add to the end, but for now. So how anxiety can affect your self-esteem. How can you feel positive about yourself when you are plagued with anxiety, worry, self-doubt, and feelings of being worthless or not good enough? While low self-esteem is not categorized as a mental illness itself, it can certainly coexist with one. An anxious mind is complicated and always looking for the worst case scenario. It lies to you and leads you to believe that you aren't good enough, lowering your self-esteem. Anxiety and low self-esteem can feed off of one another, creating a toxic cycle. It's like the chicken and the egg theory. You know, when you're struggling with anxiety and low self-esteem, they just kind of feed off each other, and it's hard to tell where one begins and the other ends. So why is it important to have a healthy self? Some of these benefits are having more confidence in yourself and your abilities. It gives you a more positive self-image. It gives you a more positive outlook on life. It allows you to have healthier relationships, and you will be more comfortable standing up for yourself. Now, that's just some of the benefits to having healthy self-esteem. There are many, but basically, you know, to have a healthy self-esteem, it's important because you want to feel good about yourself. So when you are working on developing a healthier self-esteem, be kind to yourself. One thing I like to ask myself when I'm being particularly critical of myself is, would I say these things to my best friend if she were feeling this way? And a little quote that I like, be gentle with yourself. You're doing the best you can. And earlier I talked about negative thoughts. It's just as important to identify your negative thoughts related to your self-esteem as it is your anxiety. There are a lot of resources online to help you overcome low self-esteem or work on your low self-esteem. There's self-help books and there's support groups, which hopefully I will have mine up and running soon. So one method that I like to use is a lot similar to the monitoring anxiety sheet that I showed you. So this is a thought record, and it allows you to pick your negative thought apart and prove it is not true. It shows you that everything your brain tells you is not necessarily true. Now, although there are a number of different ways to identify your negative thoughts, this was the one that I found most helpful for me. And it was called a thought record. And you can find them online, printable online. So this is just an example of what a thought record may look like. So in the first column, you have, what am I feeling? In the second column, what is my negative thought? Third column, what evidence is there to support this thought? Fourth column, what evidence is there to discredit this thought? And the last column, what is a healthier thought? And like I said before, keep in mind that what works for one doesn't necessarily work for all. Try a few different things and see what is the best fit for you. And every situation is different. So, you know, coping strategies, tools that you use may not work in certain situations. I know that I have had to adjust a lot of my coping strategies because of COVID. So practice, practice, practice. You probably won't be able to change your negative thoughts overnight, but this is the first step to a healthier self-esteem. It is important to keep working at it and don't give up. So that is the end of my slideshow. Does anybody have anything they'd like to comment or anything I should maybe add to the presentation?